Welcome to Video 2D. We're going to cover two areas of tax advisor regulations in this video, and then we're going to cover a third area in the next video. In this video, we cover the rules that apply to all tax preparers, whereas the next one covers only those that are members of the AICPA. So SpongeBob goes to see his tax advisor, Patrick. And SpongeBob feels deep down that the U.S. tax system is unfair, and he disagrees with a number of ways that the federal government is spending his money. As a result, SpongeBob asks Patrick to report deductions in excess of SpongeBob's actual deductible amounts. Patrick thinks, hey, it's not my tax return. That was my best Patrick imitation. And so he doesn't think he'll get into trouble. So what is out there to prevent Patrick from engaging in this sort of behavior? Well, we're going to start with Circular 230. This is actually a regulation issued by the Treasury Department, like we discussed a couple videos ago, but pretty much everyone just calls it Circ230. So Circ230 covers practice before the IRS. So what is practice before the IRS? Well, that's communicating with the IRS on behalf of taxpayers, or maybe representing a taxpayer at a conference. Maybe that's preparing, filing, or submitting documents, or advising on the preparation, filing, or submission of documents, including tax returns. Maybe it's providing a client with written tax advice on a federal tax matter. These are all practice before the IRS, as currently stated in Circ230. And that certainly sounds like preparing tax returns as practice before the IRS. However, under federal law, anyone can prepare tax returns for compensation. You are not required to be a CPA, attorney, enrolled agent, or any other designate to prepare taxes. Back in 2011, the IRS tried to regulate tax preparation by creating a new designation known as the Registered Tax Return Preparer. To become credentialed, preparers needed to attend training and ultimately pass an exam. However, a couple years after implementing the new RTRP designation, 3 tax preparers sued the IRS for overstepping its authority in regulating this practice, and the tax preparers won. The entire RTRP scheme was eliminated immediately. What we are left with is a Circ230 that still refers to RTRPs and leaves a somewhat confusing trail of rules and responsibilities. Let's start by breaking down the world of tax advisors into 2 groups. Enrolled preparers, which are those covered by Circ230 and include CPAs, enrolled agents, attorneys, and the like, and unenrolled preparers, which is anyone that prepares tax returns but is outside the scope of Circ230. Basically, unenrolled preparers, though capable of preparing tax returns legally, have some restrictions on the scope of what they can do when it comes to practice before the IRS. Unenrolled return preparers may not represent taxpayers before an appeals officer, revenue officer, counsel, or similar officers, or employees of the IRS. They're not allowed to execute closing agreements. They're not allowed to extend the statutory period for tax assessments, and they're not allowed to execute waivers or sign any documents on behalf of a taxpayer. But just to be perfectly clear, an unenrolled preparer is not prohibited from preparing tax returns. Predating the RTRP disaster, California has regulated tax preparation for some time through a program known as the CTEC program. In order to qualify under CTEC, preparers must have had a certain amount of training, have a bond, have a PTIN, and of course pay a fee. Note that is not a tax. To renew the CTEC license, preparers must maintain a required number of hours of training each year. There are a number of exceptions to Circ230 requirements. For example, you can always represent yourself or your family members. Circ230 makes it clear that if you identify an error by your client, you must notify the client and describe the consequences of the error, but you are prohibited from contacting the IRS to report your client if they choose not to make a correction. Circ230 also prohibits charging contingent fees, except under certain circumstances. And of course, Circ230 lists off some best practices that aren't required per se, but are still strongly recommended. So far, we still have not seen anything that would prevent our tax advisor, Patrick, from signing a tax return with a known error. This is where a combination of both Circ230 and 6694 come into play. Circ230 states that a tax preparer should not sign a tax return on which a tax position was taken that lacks a reasonable basis or is unreasonable under Code Section 6694. To be clear, Code Section 6694 states that a taxpayer and a tax practitioner will not be subject to a penalty if there is substantial authority that supports the tax return position, or if there's a reasonable basis for the position and it's disclosed on the tax return. Substantial authority means that one of the sources provides a reasonable basis for the tax position taken. You can see that the list is fairly extensive. And you may want to note, as you walk through these, they largely align with the primary sources of tax law. Well, this is the end of video 2D on Circular 230 and Code Section 6694. The next video covers the AICPA standards for tax preparers. Thanks for watching.
Here's another unlucky day coming up, tax day. It's on Tuesday, and a lot of people are going to be doing their taxes this weekend. So, you know, I think when you have to do something tedious like taxes, you should try to make it fun. Like Mary Poppins said, a spoonful of sugar on the lips, a lifetime on the hips, or something. I don't know what she said. Anyway, I stayed up all night every week, every night this week, trying to think of fun ways for you to do your taxes. And here's what I came up with. You know, if you're going to do your taxes on your own, you're going to need a calculator. But doing your taxes by yourself is so stressful, so I made this. So you can, you know, that's tedious. Then it's a flasculator. Right? After you take a swig of this thing, you're not really, in a matter of moments, you're not going to care about your taxes at all. I love paying taxes. Thank you, U.S. government. Everyone always has piles of receipts to go through, so there's a fun way to keep them organized. Lauren, come on out. I didn't realize I didn't make it longer. I thought it was not going to be that short. It's a dress made of all your receipts, and you can wear it to the H&R Block, and you ask questions like, are these deductions too big? Not big enough? Turn around, let's see the back of you, Lauren. That's wonderful. That really is wonderful. How does that feel? Is it comfortable?
Very comfortable.
That's great. The staplers don't hurt at all?
Not at all.
It's wonderful. And you have a paper clip little things? You have a pencil in your hair, like Pebbles, or who was on the Flintstones that wore a pencil in her hair?
You're
I
right.
think it was Pebbles. And a purse. It's wonderful. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.